Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Top 5 series for Ryerson's alumni and friends. My name is Christian Mehta, and I am the AVP of Engagement at the university. I'm delighted to be your moderator for this session. Before we begin, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land where Ryerson is located today. At the university, we have made a deep and long-lasting commitment to truth and reconciliation, and I invite you to learn more about this work online and in person next time we can get together on campus, which I hope will be very, very soon. We know you've got a lot on the go, so this is a 30-minute webinar. We're going to dive in quickly, but before I introduce our presenter, Hala Bissada, I have a few housekeeping tips to share. In about 20 minutes, Hala will be taking your questions. If you want to ask something, please send your question to Jennifer Hicks using the chat function so she can moderate the flow. Your cameras and mics are off, so sending your question to Jennifer directly is the best way to go. Second, if you're on social media, please use hashtag #RUTop5. And finally, we are recording this session, so if you want to rewatch it or share it with your networks, please look for a message from us in your inbox in the next day or so. Now I want to introduce to you today's expert. Hala Bissada is an event industry thought leader and an internationally recognized and award-winning event producer. In 2017, she was named one of Canada's most fascinating women in Canadian events, and she has received several prestigious awards, including the Canadian Event Professional of the Year and the Alumni Awarded Distinction from Ryerson University. Hala began her career at Sick Kids Foundation, where she developed her passion for events. Later, as Chief Development Officer for Children's Aid Foundation, she honed her fundraising skills and became a certified fundraising executive. Though she loved her 13 years in the not-for-profit sector, she always was drawn back to event planning and started Hala Inc. in 2004. She is a sought-after speaker at industry conferences and has established educational programs at both Ryerson and Humber College. Valued for her teaching techniques and experience, she's also brought in to train internal event teams at various organizations. Wow, Hala, you're incredible. Welcome, and the next 20 minutes are all yours.
Thanks, Christian. It's so nice to be here and to present to all of my fellow Ryerson alumni. As you can imagine, these are really trying times for everybody. Our industry has been decimated, and so we've had to pivot ourselves in terms of how we do events in the future. So I'm just going to share my presentation with everybody. Here we go, and I'm going to jump right in because we only have 20 minutes. So we're going to talk today about 5 considerations when planning your virtual event or celebration. I'm going to go through a quick introduction. I'm going to tell you what a virtual event is, what the benefits of a virtual event is, different types of virtual events that you can host, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the considerations for a smaller event and then a major event. So as we navigate through this unfamiliar territory together, I think what's really important is that we still need that human connection. And that's what's really important, both in our professional lives and our personal lives. So virtual events gives us a powerful way to stay connected with our colleagues and friends. And it's a great opportunity to meet, learn, discuss, share, celebrate, etc. So a virtual event is any organized meetup that takes place online instead of a physical location. So there's 3 types of online events that you can host. One is video conferencing, webinars, and webcasts. So video conferencing, many of you have probably already participated in this. It's about real-time communication with you, maybe with your colleagues at work. There's often an opportunity to chat, ask questions, share information, and that's video conferencing. In terms of webinars, well, we're doing one right now, so it can accommodate lots of different people. It's usually a presentation format, there's a speaker or a panel, and it also does have audience engagement tools. Webcasts, well, you can consider a webcast more like a polished TV show. It can have live portions that can have pre-recorded portions. You can have really as many viewers as you really want. There's no real-time communication. And these are things for like big conferences, virtual fundraisers. If any of you saw Stronger Together in support of the food banks, that's an example of a webcast. So those are your 3 types of online events. So what are the benefits of a virtual event? Really, honestly, there are so many benefits that maybe you're not aware of. So in terms of virtual events moving forward, people are asking me, you know, is this a fly by night kind of thing? And I think what you're going to see is that virtual events are going to become part of your event strategy moving forward. And the reason is because you can still make it unique and engaging. You can have a global audience, so you can expand your audience reach. It's very accessible. It's cost effective in terms of now you don't have to pay for a venue, food and beverage, that kind of thing. Obviously saving the environment, reduce CO2 emissions. It has longevity. We're recording this today so that people who weren't able to attend can watch it down the road. So that's another benefit. And then of course you can leverage your social tools. So the types of virtual events, from a business perspective, webinars, conferences, all company meetings, annual general meetings, fireside chats, product launches, town halls, those kinds of things, trade shows. From a charity or public event perspective, it could be a curated show like Stronger Together. It could be an online auction, a virtual gala. If you're a non-for-profit, you can give them behind the scenes tour. So for example, if you were the Red Cross, you might want to give them a tour of what it's like to be out in the field during a disaster situation, or a festival. Personal events. A lot of us have anniversaries, birthdays, all kinds of celebrations that we're trying to do virtually now. And you can be just as creative. You just have to think a little differently. And you know, depending on who the person is that you're celebrating, you can really customize something for them. But things to do as a family or as a group of friends can be anything like a happy hour, which I've been having happy hours with some of my Ryerson alumni for the last 3 Fridays, which has been lots of fun. Game nights, wine tastings, even like yoga. You can do a group yoga with your friends. So there's lots of opportunity to still connect and have a good time. So in terms of smaller events, when you're planning your event, you have to give thought immediately to things like understanding who your audience is and making it relevant. So if it's something personal, it's who is that individual? What is the type of celebration? Is it their birthday, etc.? But you know, if it's a business and there's a purpose to it, like a fireside chat with your president and CFO, for example, you would choose and design your event a little differently. You obviously have to select the date and you have to select the time frame. One of the things that you're going to realize with the virtual event is people's attention spans are a lot shorter because they're staring at a screen. So you might want to keep it to 1 to 2 hours, depending. And then you have to determine how you're going to register people, or is it, you sending an e-bite to some of your friends? So the first consideration is, what kind of an experience do you want to deliver? So again, like a live event, you want to be really custom to what your objectives are, who your audience is, what your brand represents. So you want to come up with really interesting ways to deliver your experience with purpose. You have to decide whether there's going to be pre-taped or live or both segments. Will it be free or will you charge? Will it be one day or multi-day? What kind of online resources are you going to have to provide? Most events, especially if it's a business event, you want to include a moderator or a host, like Christian is doing, and Jennifer are going to be doing a great job today as our moderators and co-hosts. You may want to think about materials in advance. So if it's a personal event, let's say you decide to do, an art workshop with your friends and do something fun that way, then you might want to ahead of time think about what materials they might need. Or if it's an extravagant gala, maybe you're sending something really special in an event box that you're sending ahead of time for them to open up and have all kinds of things inside that help celebrate whatever you're doing with your virtual event. There's all kinds of platforms here. The ones I'm mentioning right now, or that are on screen right now, are more for smaller events, and a lot of you are now familiar with them. You've probably downloaded a million of these onto your desktop now. Zoom, Hangout Meets, GoToMeeting, Zoom, and then there's other things, other kind of software that you might be using, like Slido, which is an audience response app. That's for polling, for Q&As and things like that. Watson Adventures is a scavenger hunt company that helps you put together a virtual scavenger hunt, for example. Evergy is for online auctions. So what you'll find is sometimes you're actually integrating not only one software, but multiple software depending on what your event is. Number 3 is you have to make it engaging and interactive. Otherwise, you're going to lose people. The thing about a virtual event is they can press one button and leave the meeting or leave the event. So you got to make sure that it's really interesting. So think about your content. And, if it's something like, a small conference, you're going to want to think about what the different segments can be. You could have entertainment, like a musical guest, you can have, or a stand-up comedian. There's obviously probably business portions, of your event. But there could be fun things that you incorporate that also help to connect everybody, like a group meditation, for example. What kind of video content are you going to put in there? What kind of speakers are you going to invite? So just make sure you have a variety of content. Things move a lot faster online. So you're moving from one segment to the next. So it's a great way to keep people engaged. Encourage social sharing. Make sure, as they did at the top of this webinar, that people know how to share socially, that you provide the hashtags and photo op opportunities, and make sure if you are using particular software that it is integrated with your social media platforms. You'll want to provide networking opportunities. Now, sometimes this can be more of the challenge because normally you're face to face, you can shake someone's hand, you can share a drink, you can have a meeting and share information. A little bit differently online. You can create breakout rooms, host virtual roundtables, have message boards, one-on-one chats, things like that to keep connected with your guests or with your fellow attendees. You need to make sure you prepare your speakers. So presenting on camera is definitely different than presenting live. Also, you might want to use some audience response software like live polling and Q&A. You might want to incorporate some gamification like trivia, escape rooms, scavenger hunts, things like that. And for charitable events, you might want to include ways to give. So you may do an online auction, or you may do something like a fund a need where you're asking people to make donations. And you may be showcasing things about your work and who you are, etc. Number 4 consideration is you want to promote your event. So you either want to create a landing page or a microsite. Maybe not so much for a social personal event, but why not? Make it fun. Make it fun for people to register. You might want to include some previews. So if you have some really interesting speakers that are going to be a part of it, or special entertainment like a live performance, you might want them to get make a little short video, and you can include these as little previews to get people excited. Leverage your sponsors. Get them to reach out to their contacts. They'll want to know that they're participating in your event. So get them to share. Your guest speakers or your presenters, get them involved. They're your natural ambassadors. Obviously, word of mouth is a way to promote. Social media, if you have a newsletter, that's a way to promote. And then other ways are email marketing, article marketing. Put a little thing in your signature, your email signature, that lets people know it's happening. Blogs and blogs. And then for larger events, things like big media buys. Number 5, a few other things on the smaller side of an event that you want to consider. Work with professionals, especially if it's something that's really important. You want to have the right web streaming professionals that you're working, the right AV company. If you need an event planner, if it's a larger event, work with one because they know the ins and outs and they can make your life easier. You'll want to test your AV setup and software in advance. Do a dry run. Even if it's like, to me, doing a webinar was somewhat simple compared to some of my other events, I still did a dry run yesterday, just to make sure that everything was working. Provide your presenters and moderators and entertainers with extensive software and hardware instructions. That way they're prepared. Even before this webinar, Jennifer Hicks sent me a little, guideline as to how this was going to go today. It was really nicely thought out. It was simple. And so that's really important. Provide guidelines for presentations. Sometimes you want a particular format, so you want to make sure you provide guidelines. And then ensure that your content is accessible for the visually challenged and hearing impaired. Now, in terms of major virtual events, there's a lot more involved. The number one thing for a major virtual event is content and value add. So I know you've heard the phrase content is king, or as I say, queen. So it's really important that you have a variety of content that's engaging and interactive, and very custom to who the organization is, whether you're a charity or a corporation. So things you can put in a major virtual event are everything from obviously keynote presentations to panels, live polling again, pre-taped and live entertainment segments like live musical guests or comedians. You might want to incorporate as one of the social things in your event, something like a mixologist and teaching your attendees how to make a drink, or have a fun chef on and he teaches your attendees how to make something healthy in terms of a meal. There could be workshops, another thing to be social, to kind of take away from all the business part of your event. You might want to do something like teach them how to do, an art class, that kind of thing. Video content is really important. Online auctions, we've mentioned virtual swag bags. I say backstage Q&As because if in the future, as I believe things are going to be what's called a hybrid, there are going to be hybrid events where there's going to be a live component and there's going to be a hybrid, and then there's going to be a virtual component. You'll want to give your virtual audience some extra little perks that they get that maybe your live audience doesn't get because they can't be there. So what you can do is, let's say you have a musical performance by Bryan Adams. That'd be great. So what the virtual audience might get is, after the performance, they might get like a Q&A with Bryan Adams behind backstage kind of Q&A. So you'll want to look for things that, are a little bit different for your virtual audience versus your live audience. The other thing is you might have a sponsor expo at your virtual event, and there is so much you can do for sponsors during a virtual event. You want to choose your speakers with screen presence. You want to use an MC and moderator, and you want to give careful thought to your agenda, making it a bit shorter than what you might normally do for a live conference. Technology. There's so much technology out there right now. So I don't know if any of you have tried some of it, but I have made my own little avatar and gone into a virtual world, and I've gone to the soccer field and the beach and gone to the auditorium. I just transport myself between the different venue spaces. So there's some really cool technology out there. There's obviously virtual event platforms. You can create all kinds of spaces that are virtual. You can have your breakout rooms, your main stage area, some interactive spaces, etc. There's webinar technology and there's live streaming technology. Some things cross over and they do multiple things. So what you'll need to do from number 2 is technology, obviously choosing your platform, but also what other required software integration you might need. These days, there's also some amazing stuff from virtual reality, augmented reality that you can incorporate into your event. Creating your microsite. A lot of times you want to actually, if it's a major conference, you'll want to send what I call the speaker kit out to your speakers, just to amplify their home tech, mics, webcams, mixers, computer lighting. And you have an AV tech on site that'll help them set it up at home. You'll want to provide your attendees with some home tech guidelines so that people don't disconnect at home. They know how to optimize their internet at home and that kind of thing. And lastly, you want to think about security for a major event. You want an encrypted stream. You want an encrypted site. You want access control. You might do more than just password and username authentication. Number 3, you really have to give production value for these major events. So you've got to get creative with the format, and you can't model it after a live event. It's really different as a virtual event. I strongly recommend, if you haven't seen Stronger Together, watch it. It's a really good example of a great show, a great virtual show. Consider launching certain components early. So for example, if you've created a virtual lobby where people can come in and they can register virtually, they might want to ask the info desk some questions, that kind of thing. You might have a video from your host that welcomes them. What's great about that is it gives them time to just test things, look around, maybe go to the sponsor expo ahead of time, check things out. So consider launching some of your things early. Partner with a reputable AV company. You're going to have to coordinate a strong virtual team. Just like a live show, you need technicians, stage managers, script writers, a presenter coach. You need to put your virtual team together. You're going to have enhanced graphic packages. So name keys, bumpers, animated backgrounds. So as you segue from segment to segment, or from session to session, or depending on how your show is running, you'll need those graphic packages. You'll need to use some audio stingers and voiceovers. You'll need to coach your speakers if, you know, I mean, there's a lot of great speakers out there, but still important to coach them. Conduct your rehearsals and technical run-throughs. I cannot emphasize how important those are. We actually do a full run-through, cue to cue, so that we absolutely know that the transitions work. We also prepare backup plans. So we want to make sure that, you know, we might have an alternative presenter. We might have both an iPad and a computer available. We might have video content that is just there in case something goes wrong, and you plug it in and you put it up just to fix whatever's happening in the background. Let's say you disconnect with your speaker and you just need content in there while you're trying to fix the problem. So you got to prepare your backup plans. And again, consider accessibility for visually challenged and hearing impaired. Number 4, really important to have that human connection and networking. So again, those video chat breakout rooms, virtual roundtables, message boards, attendee networking directory. So that's where all the attendees are listed. People can go there, invite their fellow attendees to have a meeting, that kind of thing. Social get-togethers, social sharing, and gamification. Lastly, evaluation is really important, especially if this is going to be an annual event for you, or if you're going to still do some other kind of conference. You want to determine what kind of analytics you want to collect, what type of reporting you need, what kind of evaluation criteria you want. A lot of times, your sponsors are going to want some of these analytics. It helps them determine whether their sponsorship investment was worthwhile. You'll want to integrate with other software, potentially like Salesforce and HubSpot. You'll want to conduct surveys, and you'll want to prepare a debrief report. So I don't know if I really talked really fast. I don't even know where we are with the timing.
That was amazing.
Sum it up.
That was incredible. So many cool, interesting, and innovative ideas that you shared here. I was taking lots of notes. So listen, let's just dive into the questions. There are quite a few here. So the first one is about Zoom online fatigue. We're hearing more and more about that. And this question is really focused on whether or not you predict there to be some kind of fatigue from people for just being online all the time. And how do you curb that? Or how do you create interesting activities to keep people online, keep them virtually engaged?
The one thing that I think moving forward, like, you know, part of the fact that, I mean, we have Zoom fatigue is because this is our only way to communicate right now. So we're all really exhausted. One thing I think this COVID situation is going to let us know is that more and more people are going to now work from home. They're going to realize how easy it is to work from home. You'd be able to connect, you know, share information and still be really productive. So you're right, there can be fatigue. I think more so now because we're all on it all the time, pretty much. That will ease as we, you know, start to go back to, I don't even want to say back to normal, because I don't think there'll ever be the same normal. And I hope there isn't going to be the same normal. What I think you have to do is just vary your content, have opportunities where you can just chat and not necessarily just be about business. Because honestly, most of the time when I do my Zoom calls with my team, it's our favorite part of the week is to like have that meeting to connect. We share things, we do fun things together, and it's not necessarily about work. Yeah, there's a little bit of work in there, but it's more about having some fun and connecting with each other. So make it fun.
Great. This one is from Kylie. Hala, what platforms are best for fundraising events like live auctions or Fund a Need? Do you have any
Yes, Givergy.
favorites?
I would say Givergy is one of the best. That's the only software platform that I use for online auctions is Givergy. They're very, very good, and they've got years and years of experience.
Great. Here's one. People are starting to get used to attending free events online now. Are there any thoughts on how you can or how we can monetize events?
That's actually a really, really good question. And it's a debate in our industry because honestly, because there's so much great content out there anymore, people are like, well, why should I pay for an event now? So it depends on what you're offering to me. And it depends on what your ultimate objectives are. You know, if you want to connect and friend raise or, you know, get people to understand what it is that you do, maybe it is a free event. But honestly, if you're providing really great content, I think there is an opportunity to charge. I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Here's a question for you from Jennifer. What do you miss most about live events? And what can't you recreate online?
To me, what you can't recreate is that face-to-face and that what I call the sensory experience, where you're actually really touching something, smelling something, hearing something firsthand. So to me, it's the sensory experience. What I miss most about the live event is that connection. You know, there's so much connection in a live event between you and the audience and your production team and the entertainment that you have on site and all of that. There's just camaraderie, and you know, it's like seeing it come to fruition live and seeing people happy and enjoying it and being able to see that on their faces. That's what I miss the most.
Great. So listen, we do a lot of events at the university over different time zones, right? Because of international delegations that we may be hosting. And this question is from Sahara about any recommendations you may have about hosting delegations virtually, and what should one consider when planning something like that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me about that before. I know I've done live events, and, you know, for example, for Sun Life, we've hosted a Chinese delegation here, and there's protocol, understanding, you know, who they are as a culture and making sure you don't do any no-nos and using the right colors and, you know, the proper way to greet somebody. So I think you'd still have to take some of that into consideration. And, you know, it's just going to be through a different lens. But some of that protocol, I think, still exists for online.
Listen, Hala, you've provided us with so many gems over the last 30 minutes, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your expertise. Truly invaluable, and we hope to have you back sometime soon so that we could enjoy a Hala event.
Well, it was my pleasure. And if anybody has any other questions, you know, they can email me and happy, or email them to Jennifer or yourself, and I can answer them via email.
You bet. Listen, Hala, thank you so much. For all of you who've tuned in, thank you as well. We will be sending you a recording of this webinar with a way to connect back to us if you have additional questions. So tune into that, or check your inbox for that in the next day or so. And please do watch it again and share it with all your friends and family. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.